Yo, yo, yo. Holy shit, guys. We're back. It's the Dodcast. It's Corey, Jagon, Marco. It's been a while since I said that. It's KTP Season 6. I don't know how much of a groove I'm going to be in for sitting here and talking your ears off, but hopefully it won't take me long to get reaccustomed to doing so. We're going to talk about Week 1. I'm not going to get into a whole preseason episode just because this season there's a lot of new teams. There's not as much for me to kind of like base previous seasons information and stats and records and everything off of. Um, we've got certainly plenty of returning known quantity teams. You got teams that have sort of stuck together with some new parts, like Romario kind of split into two teams. You've got Icy Hot back, which is great to see. That team is going to be an absolute killer this season. It's their season of losing gold without a doubt. You don't have any Bandits, Thunder, NSA, T3. You got Over, who I'm very excited about. I think Over and Icy Hot will have a pretty ridiculous rivalry this season. I think those are going to be the big teams in gold. And yeah, Silver, lots of new teams, lots of interesting teams. And yeah, we'll just get right into it here. As last season finished out, we had Goose Patrol with the big undefeated season, finishing it out in silver. A nice 3-map best of 3 series versus Spicy. And then in gold, of course, we had, I would say probably, and I mean, I don't think it's that controversial to say necessarily, but I would say probably the best final series that there has been in gold. The fact that it actually went 3 maps, that alone had never happened. And then the third map was absolutely insane on Saints. That game, my ass is still puckered from that game. I wanted to do awards, so I kind of, like the last Dodcast, I didn't really get into as much detail as I would have liked to because I thought I was going to do a whole award show and everything after that, but then I didn't because it was kind of like too hard. It would have been just kind of like me giving awards, and I didn't really want it to be that way. I mean, I guess I could have, but I wasn't hoping that would be the case. But man, just what a game to Bandits. In case that wasn't clear that I felt that way already, those guys were a really, really fun team to get to compete with, and that series kind of summed it up perfectly. It was just really balls to the wall across the board, and that Saints game, hopefully I can integrate that into a movie at some point because the way that Saints game went down was just absolutely absurd. Back and forth, down to the wire, just like this close. It could have gone either way pretty much up until the last like 10 seconds of the game, which was just so much fun to be a part of. No matter how stressful it was, that's what you do competitive things for. That's what you compete for, is to measure up against the best and have it be as close as humanly possible in the end. So good season to Bandits, good game to Bandits. Those guys were a ridiculous team and were so much fun to play against. And yeah, Silver, Goose Patrol, the first truly undefeated season since Clinic and Icy Hot, or not Icy Hot, sorry, since Clinic and NSA. NSA did it in gold, wire to wire, no maps lost. Clinic did it in silver in season 1. Obviously wire to wire, and now Goose Patrol, though they did lose one map in the final, so it's a little bit different from those two like flawless seasons, but in my book, still when it comes to the matches, they were an undefeated wire to wire team. Big ups to them. And then obviously in the Silver B finals, we had late arrivals and HRG. They too had a really fun series. All the finals went to 3 maps, which is like, that's what you want, right? You want 2 evenly matched teams. It doesn't always end up that way, but when you got 2 teams that can take each other the distance like that, it's so much fun to watch or cast or play in. Later Rivals took that 2-1. The third map on Thunder was super close and down to the wire. That was another one for the ages. Just to give everybody a quick little recap of where we left off, now we can jump on into Season 6. I can't believe we're here. We ended up with about 16 teams again, which is really just blows my mind, to be honest. Didn't see that coming. So these are split up into the divisions now, and I imagine come playoff time it will again be a split bracket. Not doing like the silver and bronze regular season stuff here, but there will be a split bracket in the playoffs from what I understand. So taking a look at just quickly going through the teams here. In silver, you got a DOD team. Now, I don't have a lot of information about everyone's like supposed starting lineups, right? So that's going to be speculation on my part, or just kind of like common sense looking at the roster if there's players who are generally not active, stuff like that. So with the DOD team, which I love the name, they are a DOD team. You got Nick, you got Bo, you got Handy, my boy, you got G, my Quebecois brethren. You got Purdy, a DOD legend. You got three-sided quarter, Crawd, who had a ridiculous final in the Silver A finals last season. Just on Armory in particular was absolutely absurd. You got David, who I'm not certain of who that is. And then, of course, you got Nick's brother, Gandhi here, another DOD legend on Clan X. So this is where a lot of the R11 guys ended up. You got Lobaton, Matt, Soya, Rafinha, RPC, Score, Braddock, and Nitrox. I think they can put out a really nice 6 there. As always with these guys, right? Like, this general core of players have been so good, so fun to watch for all of KTP, whether it was sleepers or R11 or heavyweights. I suspect this team will be no different. Then we have Expired. This is a bit of a mixed squad. You got Skiro. You got Pizza Hut, who's another guy who he's always performing under any circumstances, whether he's like ringing for a random team, getting out there, or playing in Silver A or Silver B. He's always fun to watch. Anna, same thing. She's all, and whether she's getting to play her natural class or not, she seems to find a way to perform. You got Jean back again. Now you got, I can't believe a DOD legend here, and Quirks is back. I'm assuming that that's actually the Quirks. I don't know this for 100% sure, but why would there be somebody else with that name and that spelling? That is so awesome to see Quirks back in the game. One of the OG DOD movie makers as well. If you ever see the So Game catalog, for instance, it was kind of like a kick by console movie. One of my favorites from the like 1.1, 1.x betas. Well, not betas, it was technically retail, but like when the OP STG existed, Pro Fiction has this insane like 5-kill STG spray on Avalanche in that movie that shows you what the STG was like back then. So cool to see him back in the game. Zorro, Chrisen LOL, Master Kenneth, Coffee Lemon Tea, CLT in the house, and of course Raven. A few players in there who can be real damage doers in the Silver Division. Of course, you got No-Go back. There's no DOD without No-Go around. Dedro, Nicholson on that team now. A nice upgrade there into the lineup. He can play any class. A lot of versatility on No-Go always, but I think the key for them will be figuring out set classes ahead of time and not shifting around too much, because it's tough. It's tough when you're going like 1 week you're sniping, 1 week you're heavy, and now you're thirding, now you're sniping. It can be tough to get into a groove as a team. So that would be my big goal for No-Go as a team, would be picking the roles you're going to play ahead of time and sticking with them as much as you possibly can, barring, having to use fill-ins, backups, whatever. Dedro, Nicholson, Spoon, who is perpetually one of the best heavies in the game. Matthew, a guy who can play with any class again and be a big difference maker. War Within, we've seen him be godly with the heavy. We've seen him be godly with the sniper. I'm not sure what class he might play this season. Koi doesn't really play all that often, but when he does, it's always fun. Twist getting on this roster, another very good, reliable heavy who can also go some painful routes there, which is always a nice thing to have in your back pocket. Wanka, Nick is back in the game, which is nice to see. Sometime last season, he was ringing for us in a Saints scrim, and we were trying to get him to come back. He is back, and you got Kush there. We've got No Pussy. I love the team name. Scotty and Jay. And this is Saab of old. You'd be familiar with most of this roster as having been Saab, so this is a really reliable core that works great together. And they've added some nice pieces here as an upgrade as well. You got Scotty, you got JN, you got Manor, you got Toki, you got Kingyo, right? This is a pretty consistent core 5 for these guys. Now, on top of that, you're bringing Louis back, another old Saab type player, like between, well, he was also on No-Go and T3 and stuff, but generally playing with these guys, and someone who could play anything, always helpful. And then Secretly and Bromley. I mean, you couldn't ask for two better guys to be bringing into a lineup like this. Secretly is ridiculous player. He's a pro gamer to the core, and he will be very fun to see as an addition to this team that is already like constantly on the cusp of breaking through and winning silver. And then Bromley, I mean, the guy. How many times on cast have I been screaming about the Brom Bomb? Whether he's sniping, whether he's main rifling, whether he's thirding, Bromley is another big piece of versatility to add to this lineup. I'm very excited to see what the new potential lineups will be, the different configurations they can put out there. I think there's a lot of really interesting ones, and they are going to be a really tough team to be dealt with in silver. I think this could be a season where they do finally end up breaking through with this core and winning the whole thing. Now you've got on-time arrivals, which you gotta love the reference to last season, the Silver B champs. You got Bullet, of course, leading the way, Epion, Casino. So I do actually have some information about what the general roster situation is for them. If I can just pull it up here real quick. Where did I put it? Where are you at here, Bullet? There it is. Okay, so you got Bullet on the utility, moving around wherever they need him. Epion on a heavy, Nightmares on a heavy, but he's not available till October. Casino, of course, on a rifle, and such a good player. He'll be available starting week 3, so we won't quite see like the full main starting 6 out of these guys right away. And then he got Reptar, Bobby on the other rifle, a Garand God. Any allied side with Bobby on your Garand is going to be potentially problematic for the opposing team. And our boy Ian Galasso on a sniper, sniped for 3H most of last season when he originally was on the team, not expecting to play, and filled in admirably. Had a lot of good moments on the casts here. That you can pull up in the highlights, of course. You also got Scat, Eric Macaluso, my original casting partner from 2006, 2007, back in the game. I haven't even got to talk to Eric yet. I imagine we will get him on a cast or 10 at some point. Ben Riopel, another DoD legend here. He needs no introduction. Another guy you can just slot in on a rifle and any route, he'll be a god. And Azilla, another very, I think, underappreciated the level of play that Azella brings to the table all the time. He was sniping, and I didn't even know he could snipe. Like, I played with him in a draft. He heavied. He did such a good job as a heavy. I assumed that he was a heavy. Come to find out later on, he's just sniping and looking great on the sniper. So that is, I think, a nice dark horse in the division there, along with, of course, Cody, ProStar, Wingit, which I didn't have listed in my little write-up over here, because this was actually before ProStar ended up on the team. Now Cody is a starting heavy on that team. That was the added little note there. So you got some serious names of DoD history in there, and if any teams take this team lightly because they were like in the Silver B bracket last season, win or lose, you're probably in for a long 40 minutes. The Red Shirts team, this is another really interesting team. Alapex, Timo, Meep, iJab, Red Dog, Milo, and Chi. Obviously, huge names in there, right? Timo, Milo, and Chi, guys who have been at the top of the gold division like this whole way through. Milo, one of the best heavies in the game. Timo, one of the best rifles in the game. And Chi, somebody who's been able to play at an elite level in gold with any weapon you make him play. I know he doesn't really want a heavy anymore, which I understand. Having to heavy in gold for multiple seasons is a painful task. So hopefully Chi will get to be on his natural class rifling with this team. Meep, a guy who we've been talking about for numerous seasons as being like a soon-to-be breakout star in DoD 1.3. And I have a feeling that with this core together, this is the season where we're going to see Meep take a big leap forward. And yeah, just I like the way that this core is built. You've got guys who are elite, like fragging. You know what you're going to get out of these guys week in and week out. And you've got guys who are role players that understand their role. Like, they're not going to be like, oh, I don't want to go that route. Like, they're going to do what it takes to win. I think this is another team who, with the kind of firepower that they have just at all times, in every class too, right? You've got it spread out pretty evenly here. They're another team that I think will surprise a lot of people if they think like, oh, well, like you got a couple guys who were in the Silver B side of things, a couple guys who were in Silver A, and then you got a couple gold players. Like, what's the big deal? No, do not take this team lightly. I look forward to seeing them progress as a unit because you got guys Milo, Chi, and Timo who really understand the competitive team play aspect of the game and will be able to bring everyone else like up to their level. Like it'll be the kind of thing where this team is going to be playing a different brand of DoD than the average team in silver, I think, because these guys understand how to win. They understand how to win at the highest levels, and they understand how to adjust on the fly to anything that's going on. I think that whatever the route partnerships and class partnerships end up being, I don't know if everyone's going to be playing like the classes you would expect them to play necessarily, but I think you're going to see a lot of growth from this team throughout the course of the season. I hopefully will get to cast a good number of their games because I'm excited to see what they can end up looking like come the end of the season. I think they're going to be a really, really tough team to deal with. Then you got Style Argentino, Arg Style. I love the tag. You got Poco, you got Luco, Dukas, Gualo, Dende, Proxy, Schulta, GZ, Empy, and K1. Good to see Empy back here. Good to see an all Argentinian team, man. If you could get Leo on this roster as well, I know he's not playing this season, but that would have been pretty cool to see. Obviously, we got some guys who we had in the league last season who improved a lot over the course of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how they mesh with some of the players who I'm not familiar with here. You don't often get that many players that I'm not familiar with, right? I know a little more about DoD than I would ever like to admit, so I'm always excited to see players who I'm not like very much familiar with their game and their skill level. These are the things that excite me in this day and age of DoD. So I'm going to be watching closely to as many games of theirs as I possibly can, and casting as many as I can too. But you've got a really, really nice backbone with the guys we do know in that list and know well, the Empis, the Schultas, Poco, Luco. I think that right there, that's the kind of foundation you need to be able to start off as a team and then improve together going forward as a unit. Next, we got Team SEC. These boys love that Southeast Conference, baby. College football represent. This is a little bit of the Gray Hair Mafia team, and then you got some guys from like Price is Right in there, and some guys from elsewhere around DoD. So you got Nine, you got Caleb, Pibian, who I am a huge fan of. We all know it. Riv as Mike Honcho, Hypnotic, Corey Price, who we saw what happens when he's playing DoD last season. Just a absolutely insane performance for Gray Hair Mafia in the playoffs, man. So good. When Corey Price is getting into the game, like he's not always around to play. When he can play, such an X Factor player. Trance is a similar thing on the rifles. And Insight, another guy who we've kind of seen start his career, and I think this is, again, a team where you're going to be able to see him improve a lot with all the DoD veterans and kind of star caliber players he's got around him. I think this team, just, right off the bat, has got to be one of the favorites in silver, right? It's going to be, like, you look at them, you look at No Pussy, I think Clan X as well has got to be up there as one of the big favorites. I think those are kind of like the big three in the preseason, just looking at the roster. When you see the lineup start to come together and who's going to be playing for who and everything, I think you can kind of form a little bit more elaborate opinion of how things are going to go this season. But just to me, just straight up looking at the roster from the start, I think those are the biggest favorites right now. And then we got the Wickeds. Not to be confused with Los Wicks, but you got Jiraiya, Ryan, Manga, AZ, Jiraiya Jr., Leto, Zaps, and Man. Zaps and Man been playing for Romario, Sleepers, Heavyweights, those teams. Really, really strong players. Man on a sniper, Zaps on whatever he wants to play. Manga, I was just watching some of the draft last week, and Manga was a beast in the draft, man. This team is another one where they've got guys who have played together. They've got a good core. They're bringing in some new guys here, but guys who we know what we can expect out of them. And, again, I think they have the right recipe there, just depending on how much they practice together and everything to really take leaps and bounds and potentially be a dark horse. Silver is very wide open. To be honest, it's not even entirely clear where the split is to me yet for Silver A and Silver B for the playoff brackets. it's going to fully depend on what happens in matches because there's a lot of talent spread out pretty evenly across the Silver Division here. And we all know the Silver Division tends to have these like crazy balls to the wall games. Sometimes just being able to thrive in the chaos is the key to being successful in Silver. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out this season. On the gold side of things, so as I said, to me, as of right now, before the season, it's Icy Hot and Over. Those are the teams to beat, right? Over last season took Bandits to the wire in the playoffs. I mean, that team has such a strong, like 8, 9. How many players they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players. You can put any lineup out there and configure it in different ways and have it be one of the top 2 lineups in the division right now. And then Icy Hot, I mean, obviously, Icy Hot was at the top of this division when it was at its most stacked, and it'll be no different this season. They've also added a pretty massive couple of players here in Kaboom and Sean. I don't know how much Chris is going to be able to play, just because I know for the last few seasons it's been kind of uh, like depending on how his internet is and stuff and his availability. But when Chris is playing, he's still one of the premier heavies in the game, and that's nothing to fucking turn your nose up at in this game. Heavies are few and far between. And when you have a guy you can just slot in there and do like what he did in the Saints game that I casted last season, just fucking go out there and drop 65 kills and standing bar people across the map, that's very, very valuable. In gold in particular, gold, I think in silver, it's a lot more like players in that kind of chaos. It can be anybody who dominates the game. In gold, the heavies are all so good. Just the average level of heavies. The heavy teams in gold are relied upon for so much more impact. Just map to map, game to game, doesn't matter the situation. And when you have a team that has a girth of heavy talent like that, it really pays off dividends throughout the season. Then when you're missing a starting heavy, it's not like shit, we got to put a rifle on a heavy who can maybe, like control recoil crouch and kind of go the route and understand it. Having a guy like Chris just available there is so valuable. And then obviously Sean, one of the best players in DoD, period. His second season in gold here. He did not disappoint in his first. And now getting to go straight into a team that is favored as the big winners in gold, in my opinion. It's going to be really fun to see how many frags he can get, week to week. Because Sean is a guy who's getting 60 kills a game no matter what. Now you're putting him on a team that's going to be probably dominating a lot of the time. You could be looking at a very crazy statistical season out of all these players, really. But that was just a segue into gold. Those are the favorites, in my opinion. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty. You've got my team 3H. No more Thunder. No more T3. No more NSA. There's no more Bandits. The Thunder players that are around, there's only 2 of them. And we're both related by blood, and we're not on the same team. So, for 3H, you got Defrag, Modgers, CK making his return to the 3H lineup that he won silver with. You got me, Brandon Newton, Gall, Austin, and Jane. Now, I already know that Austin is a little bit iffy on being active this season, so I think the plan is kind of he's not likely to be there all that often. So I believe Defrag, as of right now, is the sniper, because if at all possible, I'd like to not snipe just this once. We'll see what happens, because I know how that tends to go. There's been many times I've said I'd like to not snipe, and a lot of those times I ended up sniping. But for now, Defrag on a sniper, Modgers on a heavy. I believe I'll be on the other heavy. CK's on a rifle. Gall's on a rifle. That's a guarantee. But between me and Brandon, who's going to be that other heavy to be with Matt, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But I'd like to heavy. That was the first class that I played competitively in DoD. So it's kind of, I guess, my natural class. But I was doing it with a thumb trackball mouse, which was fucking stupid of me. Thank you, Baloo, for threatening to never play with me again if I didn't switch to a normal mouse. And thank you, Corey Price, for giving me my first normal mouse and mouse pad at WSVG. So yeah, that's 3H. Hopefully we'll be able to go out there and put up a decent season. We've been getting a good amount of practice in, though not really like starter practices all that much just yet. And obviously, as you can hear, still trying to figure out classes. Then you got Dice. This is a really, really fun 10 players here. Like, you got mix and match from all over the place. You got some of the core of the, 4 consecutive finals spicy team. You could call them Dicey. And obviously, Dice, a team that is close to my heart, my first ever invite team that I played on, with my boy Matt Vazana right there. You got Kevin Stealth Gardner, you got Paul Kuhn, Alex Element Thorison, you've got Ryan DB in there. You got a lot of snipers on this team right off the bat, let me tell you. Between Kevin, Paul, Ryan, Johnny, Dustin, you got at least 5 snipers, but these are all guys who can play other classes too, so it's not that big of a deal. And then, of course, Asani making his debut in gold. Very excited to see Asani playing in gold. This is another guy similar to Sean, dominating in silver, and people are always going to be interested to see what happens when they bump up to the next level. It's not going to be a problem, I can assure you of that right now. Johnny Bernardi, Warchild in there, Dustin, Laura, and then J-Dub, who I'm very curious to see if Anthony's going to play. Like, I don't know the last time he played DOD, but this is a former star heavy. So if he is going to be playing and even be a little bit active, that could be a very, very interesting piece of this team. As far as the classes go, just when I've scrimmed against them here, Kevin was sniping, which I'm sure, after having heavy for a season, which is like, if you're not going to snipe, you'd probably prefer a rifle, right? Heavying is a pain in the ass. So I'm sure Kevin is probably happy to be back on the sniper, but again, with all the snipers on this team, you could see anyone end up sniping and anyone play the other classes. Paul was heavying. Alex can play any class, so that's kind of up in the air. I don't know what the plan would be for the second heavy as of right now. It's entirely possible that they could even have Paul and Kevin heavying. They could have Paul and Alex rifling or heavying. And then Asani's obviously going to rifle. If Ryan is playing, I think he doesn't want to snipe that much anymore. At least as of like in the middle of last season, he was saying he wasn't super interested in sniping all the time anymore. So I imagine he'd maybe play a different class. Johnny can play anything. Dustin can, at very least, also rifle. Laura obviously has a rifle, and then, like I said, J-Dub was primarily a studly heavy back in the day. So again, that's a roster where there's just so much versatility that map to map, week to week, anybody could be playing any class. It's really, there's no set class. Like Matt can snipe, Matt can heavy as well. All these guys can pretty much play any class that they're asked of. Then you got Here to Frag. So on this team here, you got Blackhawk and Stamp, of course, the bros. You got Justin PB Simpson, a favorite of the show. You got the Bear Cam back, hopefully playing regularly in DOD here. You got Illusion, who has been one of the most rock-solid players across all of DOD since he's been back. Piff, who I think will be a very big surprise to everybody in gold this season if they're not ready for him as a heavy. He's been easily a top 3 heavy in silver since he's started playing again. And I think that his game and play style will translate very, very well into the gold division. Big Bird, Stark, another guy who's heavied in gold multiple seasons here. Arachnid, I'm imagining, who will be on a sniper. I guess I'm not sure. Obviously, we saw last season Stamp was, I think, the top-rated sniper in silver. Did a ridiculously good job sniping in silver. So maybe he's sniping again and Arachnid's playing something else, or Arachnid's going to be doing the sniping. And then you got Ryan Emo. I don't know how much he's going to play, but obviously when you got Omenair in your lineup and playing, that is immediately a big problem for whoever you're playing against. The heavies have to be prepared to deal with the handful in that case. So hypothetically, if you got him and Piff on the heavies together, and Justin and Illusion on rifles with the Bear or with Blackhawk, and Arachnid or Stamp on the sniper, like there's a lot of moving parts there again. But a team that I think is going to be a pain in the ass for everybody in the division to play with, because there's just so much frag power there. And if they are practicing together and mesh together as a team, that the amount of raw skill they have across the board there is going to be a lot to handle for everybody. And then the favorites here, Icy Hot. You got a very similar roster overall to the peak versions of Icy Hot here, with just a couple additions that I alluded to earlier. Jesse, Sean, William Sick Blackwell, Justin Lynch, who I would say the MVP of last season, Hildy. So I'm guessing not Justin sniping, right? You got Hildebrand, who is more of like a natural sniper, like you want him on the sniper, whereas Justin, a lot more of a super utility guy. He can play anything, and whatever he's playing, he's going to be about the same level. Like, he's going to get you 65 plus kills and be able to be just an absolute beast. You got Bees, of course, another DoD legend here. He can play anything. I'm guessing he'll be heavying. I could see it being Mitch and Justin heavying, but there's a lot of rifles on this team too. There's just a lot of rifles in DoD in general. Obviously, Tony, another guy who's a heavy or well, okay, so Tony was originally a rifle, but in KTP he has been primarily a heavy. So, and then Kaboom as well. You've got numerous options. Jesse can heavy. William can start. We saw William last season have some insane games on the heavy. I've even seen Vertex, Casey on the heavy. I've even seen Scott, KO on the heavy at different times over DoD's lifespan. So this is another lineup that I'm not certain what it's going to be, but if I had to guess, you're looking at something along the lines of Jesse, Sean, William, Justin, Hildy, Bees. Oh, I didn't even have Vertex in there. I don't know. I have no idea what their six is. I know this week, at least, Vertex not playing. Bees is definitely in there. And that was what I just listed. I'm 99% certain what the lineup's going to be, but I'm going to double check for everybody real quick because I do have the exact lineup listed. It is Sick, Sean, Justin, Hildy, Jesse, Mitch. Yeah, so that is what the lineup is this week. No Vertex as of right now. But I assume he'll be back next week. It doesn't matter what the lineup is for this team. They're so fucking ridiculously good and stacked. Good luck, everybody. And then I think who will be their closest competitors this season over. Been a team since the start of KTP, always been right there near the top. Hasn't quite broken through to a final yet, but I would say even money, this is the season that we see them in the final when all is said and done. Very, actually, it's like identical lineup to what they had going on last season, right? Kumkum, Mata, Devin, Saka, Nick, Slick Nick, Hat Trick, Nick Patton, Caffrey, SZ, Till. We saw in the playoffs last season in that crazy couple of series they had, SC and Caffrey as a heavy team can be so fucking good, man. Or if one of them is missing, you can put Till on that other heavy, or you can put Devin on that other heavy. Mata can heavy, Kumkum can heavy. So again, a team that has a lot of really good options on the heavy. And then, of course, Kumkum and Saka as a rifle duo to begin with, right? Whoever the third rifle ends up being, but those two, oh my god, just go back and watch that cast. Look at what these guys were doing. They were insane. You've got the best sniper in the game there in Nick Patton. You know what you're going to get out of Nick at all times. Like, it's just, there's no question mark. And I think overall, who I would say is probably the best overall player on the team in Devin. Doesn't matter what class you put him on, he's likely to top frag. He's likely to be absolutely insane. We saw him third rifling at one point in the semis and top fragging. I've seen him car bar. I've seen him like he sniped against us for over last season at one point and shit down our throats on Railroad 2. So much talent on that team and so many options for what the lineup ends up looking like. And then last but not least, you got Clinic. So heading into this season, this is the team that I thought I was going to end up playing for. But then it was kind of like, I know because they've been the team that's gotten kind of fucked the most by placement discussions, right? Like, they won silver undefeated in season 1, and because of that, they basically were always the team that had to be moved up to gold. Even though in season 3, they lost in the semifinals. But they've never complained because these guys are competitive as fuck. These guys are gamers. These guys are competing out there. So I was kind of hoping that if they wanted to play in silver, they would get to, and if I was on that team, that they weren't going to be in silver. So it's kind of like, if they want to play in silver, I don't want to push them into silver by playing with them. So it was kind of like, never mind. But when all was said and done, it turned out they're going to end up in gold anyways, and they made some really, really nice roster moves here to get ready for the gold division. You can see it's mostly the core guys. We know this team so well. They're so much fun to watch. Tom, Sam, Scott, Insam, Vic, Carp, Allen, and then now you've got Hopper added in from the Silver Champ Goose Patrol. You've got Taylor, who is one of the top 3 heavies in the game, and you got Debo, who can play any fucking class at that same kind of level. I don't know what the plan is lineup-wise. I think as of right now, like, Taylor and Debo are more going to be filling in whenever someone's needed, which we've seen with Clinic. Like, the guys, they're busy sometimes. Like, they end up having to use, like, a 7-man rotating roster a lot, so I suspect you will see plenty of Debo and Taylor in there. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. We obviously saw Debo with Clinic in Season 2. They beat Thunder on Anzio in an absolute, like, blowout at that point. Just a shit stomping on Anzio. Um, Clinic has always been a team that is capable of beating absolutely anybody. And I think adding in multiple guys like Taylor and Debo, who are just, they're guys who put teams over the top, right? And this, I think, will be the season where Clinic in gold, you will see up in that top 3. I really, really believe that, and I'm excited to see it. Because these guys have not complained once about being in gold all the seasons that they've been stuck in gold. Any other team has effectively not been pleased about it and made that very widely known publicly. If it was even a chance that they were going to be put in gold and not silver, these guys want to be in gold. Like they're putting gold and it's like, all right, well, I guess that's the way it is. We're going to fucking try to win. And I love that shit. That's the way it should be. It's a competitive league. Competition, not easy time winning. It's supposed to be hard. And that's one of my favorite things about Clinic from the start of KTP onward. They have not once backed down from being placed in gold. They deserve to go out there and have a serious shot at winning this division, and I really hope they do. I hope we get to see them make it to the final and have a fucking killer series with Icy Hot or Over or whoever ends up there in the end. Gold, I'd say, is pretty wide open. The 2 top teams, I think, are pretty clear, right? I mean, I could be wrong, but I think Icy Hot and Over are the best teams on paper. But beyond that point, I also think that anybody can beat anybody this season. I don't see there being too many maps where I'm like, well, no, there's no way that team could win that. I just don't see it. But maybe I'll be surprised. I mean, I could, honest to God, any of these teams could turn out to be the best team in the division easily. Just with a little bit of extra, team chemistry coming out of the woodwork, because talent-wise, across the board, the rosters they're right there. And yeah, it's going to be, again, an exciting season, I think, here in gold, and we will see what happens. So, let's see just how long. I said I wasn't going to do a preseason episode. God damn it. Anyways, moving on, because here we are, and I've talked way longer than I had planned on. I at least was able to do it in super speed. I'm very sleep deprived because of finishing that Thunder movie, and guess what? As my reward for finishing that Thunder movie, I get to make another Thunder movie. But first, I'm giving myself a week off because, oh my god, this is all I've been thinking about for a while. All right, let's get into week 1 predictions here. I'm just going to swap out some nicotine. I'm going to go with the Rogue this time. Anyone out there who likes nicotine pouches, though, be warned, this stuff is fucking harsh on your gums. I'm going to go with the Zin. Nah, I'm going to go with the Rogue. All right, so we're going to start in the Silver Division here. We've got, first up here, on-time arrivals versus expired. So for on-time arrivals, as we said with the lineup, for now at least, it looks to be, I'm going to go back and read it again just because I don't want to fuck it up like I did the first time around. Where did it go? Where'd you go? I miss you so. There it is. All right, so Bullet, Epion, Prostar, Reptar, Ian, and then who is technically the last one there? I think it's Eric. I think it's Scat, hypothetically speaking here. Yeah, I believe so. And then for the expired team, I have no real idea what the starting lineup is here. I imagine Pizza Hut, Anna, Skiro, Gene, Coffee, Raven, something like that, just based on like who I know has played in KTP in recent time and is pretty active in the game. But, why would Quirks be on this roster if he's not going to play? I'm guessing he's going to be playing. Same with Master Ken. I'll be interested to see what the starting 6 is for this team, and if it's like a consistent starting 6, or if, with that 10-person roster there, they're going to be kind of moving parts around based on maps and who can be there and whatnot. But it's on Harrington here, of course. Harrington is staple of the game. Harrington, an incredibly fucking frustrating map. Of all the maps that I think need an adjustment, I would say Harrington is number 1, along with a map from week 3, Solitude. Due to it's just so heavily nadey right now. You can nade over like every wall. You can nade from in spawn on allied side, which I think is way too OP. If you're going to make just one, and here's the thing, you don't need to go crazy with Harrington. The map otherwise is Great. There's a reason it's stuck around this long. And Dust 2 has as well, the map it was based on. But being able to nade from inside spawn, I think is so OP for allies that it's almost like excessive, right? You can just spawn and go up to the ramp. You don't have to peek. You can just nade through the doors into the mid cap and most of the time break it. Whereas from allied side, you run off a spawn ramp, up a sandbag, expose the whole time, run around a corner where you're exposed to 17 new angles, then you have to throw it off a wall in a very particular way, and then all that, just think about the amount of time it takes to spawn. Like, if they're getting on mid when you died, and you got a 3-second respawn, let's say, oh, you're not breaking mid. But on allied side, you are breaking mid, because you can spawn 10 feet away from the bottom of that ramp. So yeah, Harrington, I would love to see get that one adjustment. All you have to do, and hey, if you don't want to put skyboxes in a couple places for the nades, right? All you got to do, you switch the sides the doors are on. As Jules pointed out, you just switch the sides the double doors are on, right? And now they can't nade through the doors from spawn ramp. They have to run out and go to the right side and nade through this way, off this wall. Boom. Infinitely more even a map. It is so much less allied-sided just from that change. You don't even have to fucking do anything else. Just do that. Don't do anything else, I would say, in fact. Just do that. If somebody just opens up Harrington and changes nothing but that, I think Harrington immediately becomes a much more fun map. Because on Axis side, it's not just a never-ending stream of, we killed the whole team, should we go for mid? Oh my god, there's 42 nades up our asses now. Sorry, tangent there when it comes to Harrington. But what I'm going to say is, on-time arrivals, the core of that team, I've watched them play Harrington numerous times now. Obviously, without Casino and Nightmares there just yet, they're not quite full strength, but they still have a lot of strong Harrington players. Expired has some people that are also very strong on the map. Anna, Pizza Hut, Coffee, Raven. Like, these are all players who I've seen do big things on Harrington. But I think it's just going to be a little bit too much for them as a brand new team, kind of just getting their footing under them here. I think On-Time Arrivals takes this game. And I'd say they take it by like 3 caps-ish. But I would love to be surprised. Like, with the teams that I don't know that much about yet, I'm hoping for all of them to surprise me in the other direction and them all turn out to be like really, really strong teams, you know? They all have the pieces to do so and the raw talent to do so. It's just a matter of if, because you can have all the talent in the world, and if you've got a lot of overlap on your classes and your routes that you play, it's just too hard to really like take that and sculpt it into a full unit of a team that understands their roles and what's expected of them across the board. And I'm most excited to see all these new teams and how they progress going forward. As of right now, I think On Time Arrivals has taken this one by like, say, 150. 150, I'd say. Which isn't that bad on Harrington, to be honest. All right, moving on. SEC versus the Red Shirts. I think this is a very interesting game here. For the Red Shirts, they basically have a 7-person team here, right? So, like, there's not a lot of speculation to be had. Alapex, Timo, Meep, iJab, Red Dog, Milo, Chi. I don't know if Milo is still planning on sniping and Timo is still planning on heavying. I'm pretty sure Chi's going to be rifling at least, right? I imagine Alapex will be on a heavy. Meep probably on a rifle. Red Dog on a sniper, right? iJab pretty much play anything. So whatever formulation of this team ends up playing this match, you got pretty much everything covered there. And then on the SEC side, again, a little bit more mystery here with who's going to be active, who's going to do what. I imagine, of course, Pibian's on a sniper rifle, right? Because, come on. I want to watch Pibian snipe. It's too fucking exciting. I love watching this guy snipe. He's Money B Jr. Beyond that, Riv can play anything. Hip can play anything. If Corey's playing, he's probably on a rifle. If Caleb's playing, he's probably on a rifle, but he can heavy too. 9 probably on a heavy. Trance probably on a rifle. So this one is very interesting. Like, Red Shirts has a lot of potential. They have a lot of talent and a lot of potential. SEC has the advantage of most of them having played together as a team before, right? And looking really, really good as a team, to be honest. Obviously not the exact same team. You're removing Jesse and Sean from the equation here, which are 2 ridiculously fucking stacked players. But still, a team that has played with each other overall a lot. I I really am interested to watch this match. I hope it's not going to be at the same time as our match because I would love to cast this game. I think that this game will be very telling for how the season is going to go in Silver. Um, with the just raw frag power you got on red shirts and Milo and Timo and Chi and Meep, especially. Um, that alone could overwhelm, right? Like on any map, but especially on a map like Harrington. We've seen in the cast Milo running around the map everywhere, getting 3, 4 kills at a time. We know what Colin can do if he's soloing long. I don't think that's the plan for him right now because I think he's gonna heavy this season, last I heard. But again, I don't know that for sure. On the SEC side of things, they need to stay controlled because things are going to go wrong sometimes against this team because they have such good players that individually they will take out your whole team. SEC just needs to kind of like keep it together, keep it mellow, respond to the situation, and work back through it as a team because they are more of a team right now. Red shirts still new together. A lot of experience between Chi, Milo, and Timo playing together on different teams, but getting the whole thing integrated is going to take a little time. So SEC needs to kind of try to like play to that advantage. Don't try to just go balls to the wall gunfights with a guy like Milo because you're not going to win those very often. Anybody, or Timo or Chi, these guys are all ridiculous at the game. You need to just play your brand of DoD and not panic if Milo aces you or something. Just take the problems as they come. If they can do that, I take them to win this game. But again, I have no idea what to expect here because red shirts, with the kind of guys they have and their understanding of DoD, they could instantly just be a godly team and play together flawlessly. With the understanding of their 3 best players of how the game works, they could just be directing traffic and really bring everything together right away. This one I think is too hard to predict. I'm going to go with SEC just due to their experience together as a unit. Because like firepower wise, it's even here. But we'll see, man. I think. Let me just double check before I say that's the match of the week. Ooh, there are a couple of good ones. I'm gonna call that the match of the week for now. I also like this No-Go versus Clan X game too, though. So if I could cast both those, that'd be fucking sick. All right, so on to the next one. We've got Style Argentino versus No Pussy. So for Style Argentino, as I said, I'm not certain because there's a few guys in here that I'm not familiar with. But, Poco, Luco, Scholta, Empey, I imagine those guys are all playing, and that's a really, really nice start. I'm going to have to see after a couple matches if it looks like they're using a consistent 6. Or if they want to message me what their 6 is, that would be sweet too. And then obviously on the No Pussy side, I really love the makeup of this team. Based on seasons past, I would guess you've got Scotty on a rifle, Toki on a sniper, Manor on a heavy, King Yo on a rifle. Now, Yanni can play anything. Bromley can play anything. Louis can play anything. Secretly can play anything. I personally would probably put Secretly on a rifle. And I would probably that it's a tough call. I think I'd want Adam on another rifle, and then whichever between Louis and Yanni on the other heavy, because they're both really good heavies. And when it comes down to having to choose between like 4 rifles to be your second heavy, I think you just got to go with who has the most experience as a heavy at that point. Because it's tough. It's tough. But on Harrington, it's obviously a map that is wide fucking open, and if a team has a good understanding of the meta and how to execute it on this map and good rotations, like team play and grenades are basically the name of the game on Harrington. So Style Argentino, if they can bring those things to the table, they can make it a tough one on No Pussy. But I've got No Pussy down as, one of the big favorites in Silver this season. I got to think they're going to win this game, and I think this could be a chance for them to make a real statement with the new additions on the team here in Secretly and Adam and Louis, however many of them end up playing. I hope Secretly in particular is playing regularly because I want to see Secretly with a whole season and see what kind of crazy stats he can put up because I think it'll be eye-popping stats. But I'm going with No Pussy here. I need to see Style Argentino play. basically. Until that point, I can't realistically pick them to beat a team that has been one of the favorites in silver for season after season, and now with some upgraded roster spots there as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go with no pussy. I'm gonna say, I think, say like, what's 5 caps? It's a single double caps, so like 200 to 230, give or take. So yeah, no pussy, I think's taking that one. Next up, I think this is the other match of the week here, No-Go versus Clan X. We know how I feel about a lot of the guys on Clan X, being their origin in Romario and Sleepers. I did get to scrim against them a bit last night, so I'm going to open up the screenshots and see who exactly played. You know Rafinha's playing, that much, unless he's like not available. But man, the baby goat there in Rafinha, or PDX Jr., as has been coined for him many times. You know he's in there on a rifle. Matt on a heavy. Lobaton on another rifle. Nitro, I'm guessing, on a rifle as well. Very, very strong rifle. Great pickup for this roster as well. And then Soya can play anything. But last night in particular, Score sniped one map and Soya sniped another map. RPC heavied on one map. I think Braddock was playing in the second game and was heavying. So it's kind of up in the air, but whatever the lineup is, their core is so strong. They've proven they can win as a team together. And they're going to be a tough one this season. But they're going up against a very, very good team as well. No-Go, they've been together forever. There's a couple new pieces to the team this season, but when No-Go has the pieces all together and can put their best starting 6 out there, they are really fucking good, man. I don't know. Class-wise, it's a little bit up in the air for me with this team. You got a few snipers, right? War Within can snipe. Matthew can snipe. Darren can snipe. Dedro can snipe. Not sure who's playing what. I know Darren was heavying in the draft, so I'm guessing that was like in preparation to maybe heavy this season, or maybe it was just because the team he was picked on didn't have another heavy. Not sure. But you know Spoon is going to heavy. He's a fucking heavy god. Matthew, I'm assuming, is going to rifle. Dedra, I'm assuming, is going to rifle. War Within, I'm assuming, is going to snipe. You could see maybe like Dedro. Hold up. Spoon and Twist maybe on heavies. Dedro, Nicholson, and Matthew on rifles, and War Within on a sniper. I can see that being the lineup. You also got Wanka in there, too, who can heavy especially. So yeah, interesting matchup here. I've seen No-Go have some really good games on Harrington, and I've also seen them have some head scratchers on Harrington. I think that was like one of the first games I casted in KTP, though, so they've come a long way since then. Big key for No-Go, Mountain. If Spoon is playing, you know he's going to make Mountain a living hell for Clan X. And the way Greg goes is the way No-Go goes. When he is in there, he's generally getting like 60+ kills, and especially, man, he's so good with the STG, it's tough. Trust me, as somebody who's been heavying for the last few weeks, I appreciate that so much more now. I'm very interested in this match as well. I scrimmed against Clan X on Harrington last night. They were really tough. They have a good understanding of what they need to do on the map in any given situation. They're really good at rotating around for each other, at throwing you some curveballs. They execute their nades very, very well. I was just getting fucking carpet bombed by these guys all game on Harrington. I think this is going to be a close one. This is the first one where I think it's like a real, like, this is probably going to come down to like a cap at most. Oof. You know, I'm going to go with No-Go here. Just because I'm less sure about exactly who's playing for Clan X. I can tell you Rafinha and Matt and Lobaton and Nitrox, all these guys, if they're playing, they're going to be great, right? But you never know. Like, I don't know for sure that Rafinha is necessarily available all the time, or that Matt's available all the time, or Lobaton or Nitrox, etc. So this is something that it could go either way. Like, if I saw Clan X's lineup right now and No-Go's lineup and they looked a certain way, I would be able to just turn it in the other direction in Clan X's favor. especially with no-go. I think sometimes no-go can be their own worst enemy because they switch classes and stuff, which I get. We're 20 something years into the game, and sometimes it's boring to just play the same class. But I think if no-go could just get consistency on who's playing what, I think that alone kicks them into another gear as a team. Just because that's the way you mesh together as a unit, is like you're playing with the same guy on your route, playing the same class, however many times in a row, you start to understand what to expect from them, what kind of situations you're going to need to go rotate to other areas for, etc., etc. Just a little bit of more consistency out of no-go with their classes and routes and everything is something I want to see out of them this season. Because if they do, boom, you're putting them right up in that favorite in the division list right away. So I'm cheering for no-go to have a really nice start to the season here and be able to do that going forward, because these are all really fucking great dudes, and they've been playing the game forever, and I want to see no-go succeed. Who doesn't? The DoD community wants to see no-go succeed, so... and I obviously want to see Clan X succeed, since I'm like the biggest fan and booster of that group of guys. So this is a tough one to call, but I'm going to go with no-go. I like the moves on this roster and what it entails for the future of the team. So that's just my one piece of advice, is just kind of like pick out what you guys are going to do. And even if it doesn't work right away, like just stick with it a little bit longer. Don't immediately jump off whatever class you're playing and try to change things up. There's a time and a place to do that. Like I think we saw it in the Bandits versus Thunder game on Armory, where I was like 5-20 with the sniper and Tox was like 5-20 with the car, so we switched it up there. That's certainly, you can usually feel it when it's really time that you need to change things up mid-match. So just don't do it too early, because I think if no-go just sticks it out a little more in situations like that, they will break through, because they're all really good and smart players. So yeah, moving on to the final game of this week, we've got a DoD team versus the Wickeds. Over here, we've got the Wickeds. Again, it's not 100% certain. I'm assuming Zaps and Mand will get in there. Manga, Jiraiya, Ryan, AZ, maybe Leto, maybe Jiraiya Jr. Not certain. But whatever 6 they put out there, they've got all good players there. So I think they'll be okay either way. And then on the DoD team side here, you've got Nick, Bo, Handy, G, Purdy, Quarter, Crod, David, Gandhi. You got to figure Drew on a heavy, right? And just making life a living hell for the Wickeds. This is a map where I think he can win a game single-handedly with how good, and his play style as well on the heavy. Like, he can just really just stick it up your ass. If you got Kevin in there, rifling in mid, very, very strong. Nick, he can play anything, right? Another guy who's kind of like a super utility player. Bo, generally on the heavy, or you can even have him third. Unter, Garand, go long solo, something like that. G on the heavy. Quarter on the sniper. Is Mike going to play in rifle? Rifle mid, potentially. Lots of question marks around what a DoD team's lineup is going to be, but they have the pieces to be a strong team in silver, without a doubt. It's just going to be, again, a team that I need to see who exactly it is that they're putting out there week to week. And it kind of the same thing goes for the Wickeds, right? This is another game. I think this game could be very, very close, and it could be like a really, really fun game to watch back and forth. Man, this is one of those games where I wish I knew the lineups, because it does make a difference who's in there for each team and what they're potentially playing and what route they're going. Who do I go with here? I think I'm gonna go with the DoD team here. But let me tell you, man, I think the Wickeds have a lot of firepower and are kind of flying under the radar a little bit right now. And I think that'll be a big mistake on everybody's part in silver if you don't look at that team and go like, okay, those guys we need to be prepared for. Some really, really strong players, and guys, like especially the guys from Romario who weren't necessarily like the Rafinha and the Bud. Zaps and Mand could now like really spread their wings and be like hard carries on a team. Manga, as I said, watching the draft, looked like he was just going insane. Could have him be a big breakout player this season. But I'm going to go with the DoD team. I just, knowing who is likely to play and where they're likely to be playing and stuff. I just think they can match up with the big guns on Team Wickets here. So I'm going to go with the DoD team for now, but it's mostly just because I can imagine exactly what their lineup is a little bit easier. Whereas the Wickeds, I have some questions about who's playing and where they're playing and what class they're playing and everything. But I have a feeling after week 1, I'm going to be saying, yeah, I probably should have called that differently because that team has a lot of talent on it. But yeah, I'm going with the DoD team by like 70. Like a cap and a half, almost 2 caps, I guess. But we'll see. That one is one that's like a big question mark for me, just because I really don't know what to expect those lineups to be on both sides. That does it for silver. I can at least keep. Oh my god, I was about to say I can at least keep this under an hour, and then it struck an hour. Check it, man. Right when I was saying I can at least keep this under an hour, 59:59. All right, gold, 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 gold. All right. Let's power through the. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that. Right off the bat, we got a match of the week in gold. Icy hot and over on Harrington. Oh, fuck yes. All right, I'm going to do my match first just to power through it. 3H versus Clinic. Good luck, have fun. We know how I feel about Clinic. I love those guys. Usually at least one player from Clinic is ringing for us at all times too. So yeah, I mean, I expect this will be a close game across the board, and we'll see. I'm not sure exactly who's playing for Clinic this week, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting game, and yeah, I really think it's going to be like a fucking stressful game, which excites me. I like DoD when it's like, oh fuck, like, am I going to miss this shot and we lose? That's what makes competition fun, guys. You don't want to be guaranteed to win. You want it to be a little exciting. But yeah, good luck, have fun to Clinic. I think this will be a fun game. Both teams play pretty similar style of DoD overall, so I think it'll be a lot of cap outs going in both directions. And yeah, moving on, so I can try to make this a relatively timely Dodcast episode. We're going to go to Here to Frag versus Dice. Again, with both teams, I'm very unsure on the lineups. For Dice, I'm going to just make a educated guess here of Kevin sniping, Paul and Element on heavies, Matt on a rifle, Asani on a rifle, and Laura on a rifle, or Dustin, or Johnny, or Ryan. There's so many potential lineups for this team, but just basing it on the one scrim that I played against them, I'm assuming Element wasn't there, so, I'm assuming he's going to heavy, but I don't know that. Just looking at who's on the team. Ryan can heavy, too. On a version of Iowa, Ryan was a heavy on the team that I played on, so 100% he could heavy. And then for Here to Frag, again, I'm assuming that PB is going to rifle. I'm assuming that Arachnid is going to snipe. Piff is going to heavy. Illusion is going to rifle. The Bear probably going to rifle. Maybe Stark heavying. Or maybe Jared. Is Stamp going to heavy? Is Blackhawk going to heavy? Again, question marks, but the guys who we know exactly where they're playing, you know what you're going to get out of them, and they are big-time players here. Especially when you look at the rifle team, PB and Illusion, and whoever is rifling with them, whether it's Cam, whether it's Stamp, whether it's Blackhawk. You got some serious firepower there. And on Harrington, if you got guys with 2 nades that are dropping 80 kills, that usually bodes well. I think this game, a lot of it will come down to Mountain House. I think it's going to be a very, very fun battle on the heavies, whatever the heavy teams end up being. Just the people who I know are likely to be heavying, having scrimmed against them and stuff. I think the Mountain team is going to be a fucking bloodbath between these two teams. It's just going to be a lot of pushing and shitting on first flags and holding first flags and hoping the rest of the team can catch up the flags to you. Lots of firepower there. I assume each team will also send a car Mountain a lot of the time, which is so key with how good players are with mechanically now. You can't just send 2 STGs against the 2 bars. You need a car over there supporting you a lot of the time. And these teams know that, and they will not make that mistake. This is, I think, going to be a close match. This is another one where I think this game will tell you a lot about what to expect out of Gold this season, standings-wise. I mean, obviously, it's the first week. That every game tells you a lot about what to expect out of the fucking. This is a stupid thing to say, but this in particular, like these two teams, I think are going to be good measuring sticks for one another as far as where they match up with the Icy Hots and the Overs in the division. And I think they are both really, really strong teams, and especially given that they're active. That's really like the most important thing in DoD right now. Everybody is good at this game at this point, for the most part, right? Except like brand new players that are still learning. Players that have been playing the game for 15, 20 years, we're all good at the game. And the thing that brings you up to the next level is just playing even a little bit more than the average player. And both these teams scrim. Regardless of how much, the fact that they're scrimming at all is important. I think if you went back over all the seasons of gold, generally speaking, you would see that the teams that were most active down the stretch were the teams that ended up being in the finals and oftentimes winning the finals. Just because you get sharp, you get a feel for your teammates, you get a feel for situational awareness. You're not ever like misthrowing nades. Your aim is that little bit extra crisp. Both these teams have a lot of good active players. They got guys who understand what they need to do in their roles to help their team win. This is a tough one to call here. I'm going to look just like in my head at the matchups, hypothetically. Kevin versus Arachnid is a really fun sniper matchup. Then if you got Paul and Element versus like Piff and Stark, or Piff and Jared, or Piff and Blackhawk, and then Asani on a rifle. I mean, you could potentially have Paul or Element on a rifle too. Die Life, Matt's definitely on a rifle. Laura or Dustin or Johnny, all definitely on rifles. And then PB, Illusion, and the Bear probably, right, on a rifle. It could be anybody else, really. You could put Ryan on a rifle if he's going to play, and he'd have a good time. Oof. I'm going to go with Dice here. I'm going to go with Dice. I think this team is going to be pretty fucking scary overall. And you might not know what lineup you're going to see any given week, but it's going to be just as scary no matter what lineup it is. For Here to Frag, again, I just don't know exactly who's playing. Like, there's too many question marks for me right now. I know a couple of them, and those fucking spots are ridiculous. The PB, the Illusion, the Arachnid. Knowing and Piff on a heavy, like, those are the guys I'm certain are starting and in those spots. I just need to know who the other spots are. At least what the general idea is, because obviously shit happens, and you don't have the same starting six all the time. I can tell you, if Arachnid's not there, these guys have plenty of good fucking snipers to take his place and fill in that week, assuming that Arachnid as a starter is the plan. So, lots of options for Here to Frag. I'm going to go with Dice right now, and then hopefully after this week, I have an idea of like what Here to Frag's general lineup is going to be, so I can be more informed going forward. But Dice, I think, is going to have a nice, strong start to the season. The core of this team has just been winning and winning and winning since KTP began, basically, and I don't think this is going to be any different, and I expect Asani is going to have himself a nice first game in gold as well. And then the big one here. I'm very excited that this is the opening game of the season. Icy Hot versus Over on Harrington. Both teams are really, really good at this map. Just right off the bat, Nick versus Ben. What a fucking sniper matchup in mid. Jesus Christ. Man, that's going to be... They're going to play in the afternoon, right? Like, that means I definitely get to cast this game. I'm so excited. So excited about that. Saka, Kum, and Devin or James on the rifles up against Sean and William and Jesse, I imagine, right? That's probably what it is, yeah? Jesus Christ, again, look at all that fucking firepower, man. What the hell? And then heavies, you got Mitch and Justin. What a fucking heavy team there against either some combination of Caffrey, SC, Till, and Devin. Some combination of that. Like, this is just a fucking heavyweight slobber knocker across the board. I tell you what, Icy Hot is the favorite. Easy. By far this season, right? We all know it. I hope they know it. I hope they realize that. The thing is, when you're the favorite, sometimes you also need to put in that little bit of extra work, right? Because everyone's gunning for you. And Icy Hot, is putting in that extra work. They are going to be sharp right away. They've stayed active. They are not just going, well, we have the best lineup on paper, so like we'll just fucking cruise through this thing. No, they are staying active, and that is, I think, what really puts them into that like elite top number one gold team area. I haven't seen over scrim that much. I know that like schedules for a few players on over are dicey, so it's not likely that they're going to scrim constantly. But I tell you what, they weren't scrimming all that much at the end of last season, and they almost took out Bandits in the semifinals. And they had a crazy game against Gray Hair Mafia that they came out with by the skin of their dicks. So maybe they don't really need to scrim that much. These guys are fucking fraggers. Man, I think this game is going to be very close. It would be quite a statement win for Icy to come out here and win by like 250 points or something. If they do that, then good luck to everybody else. Because in my opinion, Over is so clearly the second best team right now. That would be very scary if Icy just came out and wiped the floor with them. I don't think Over is going to let that happen. They're such good players. And I loved the way that lineup looked to finish out the season. And that was without Nick in there, too. You know, like they didn't even have Nick playing in that last game. So having that added in to the equation here makes this team so interesting to me. I was talking about them nonstop at that point last season, how like there are lineups for Over that can make them the best team in the division against anybody. And it's no different here. It's the same exact team, and it's the same exact scenario. I'm going with Icy Hot because I have them as the favorite to win the division, and I have them to go undefeated. Like if I was laying down a bet on KTP Gold this season, I would be putting my money on Icy Hot to go wire to wire undefeated, plus 500. Boom, give me my money. But I think that this, I mean, obviously everybody plays each other twice, so they're going to have another big test from Over. And depending on the maps, other teams can absolutely beat Icy Hot. I just think Icy Hot's going to be prepared for anything and everything. They're all cerebral DoD players. They understand the game in and out. They're not just out there mindlessly death matching or anything like that. They have a good grasp on what it takes to win, on why they're able to win together, on what their players on their team and the other team are doing and why and what they need to do against it. And I think that's what really is separating them from the pack now. Not just the insane talent you have on the team, like, Jesus Christ, man, just a ridiculously stacked lineup. Gonna be fun to watch. We know how I feel about watching these, like, elite teams go out there and try to put together an NSA kind of season. It'll be very, very interesting. Again, though, if I'm putting my money on it, it's Icy Hot and Over in the finals at the end. But I'd love to be surprised. I'd love to be surprised. Okay. That does it. I said Icy Hot's going to win, right? Yeah. But I'm going to say it's close as fuck. It's definitely, I don't think it'll be more than 2 caps. Unless Over really, like, has not played at all. But I know that they were all playing in the, well, not all, but a good chunk of them were playing in the draft. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think it's no more than 2 caps. I think this will be a close one. But yeah. That does it for the first episode of the Dodcast Season 6. If you haven't watched the new Online Thunder movie, it is on my YouTube channel. It's on the DoD Movies playlist right at the top. I have been working on this thing nonstop. I'm so tired, and I still have another movie to make now. But go watch the movie. Make sure you watch start to finish because it is telling a whole storyline, and the second movie hopefully will continue that if I can figure out a good way to frame it. Thank you, everybody who's been, commenting and sending me messages. I want to respond to all of them at once a little later on tonight after I eat. So I have seen that I have a bunch of messages and comments. I'm not ignoring anybody. But everyone, make sure to post what your match time is and match day because I want to cast the shit out of everything I can. Hopefully the ones that I said were matches of the week and the particularly close-looking ones, I'll be able to cast all of them. I actually was at one point thinking of just not playing until the rosters were about to lock so that I could just cast every game humanly possible, but then 3H ended up reforming. So, I joined 3H. But for the time being, at least, whatever I can possibly cast, I will cast. I promise. And, yeah. Hey, we're back, baby. A 6th season of this fucking game in 2024. Ah, man, it's very, very hard to believe, but it's pretty fucking awesome, especially for somebody who basically after DoD died didn't have a computer for about 8 years. To think that when I got a computer, I would be walking back into the competitive DoD landscape and getting to cast and make this thing, like I never would have imagined that. And yeah, thank you everybody who's kept the game alive for so long because it is pretty sweet to be able to still do this. I will see you guys on Sunday for some casts and for our match against Clinic. Hopefully, someone will be able to cast that too. But we'll see. We know how that goes. Love you guys. Good luck. Have fun this weekend. KTP. Oh my God. DOD is back. Mwah. Peace out.